I'm Kelsey. I'm a freshman here on the downtown ASU campus. I'm a journalism major with a focus in PR. I want to go into being a lobbyist eventually, which is something that I'm super into. And then I'm originally from Indiana. I was raised in Kentucky. I was born in Chicago, and that's super important to me. And I am bisexual, and my pronouns are female. In high school, I was on the school newspaper and the school radio station, so super loved journalism. Had to come out to Arizona State for it. I had to be in the sun. I had to be out of Indiana. I just had to get out. Yeah. And this is a perfect fit, and I'm working an internship right now, and they kind of do a lot of stuff with lobbying and public policy, and that's gotten me really kind of intrigued in that, and just being part of the LGBTQ community and seeing what's going on in journalism right now. Yeah. I think it's really important to be an advocate, not just for your community, but pretty much anyone else that really needs someone to be there for them. Yeah. To me, I'm really big into helping other people. It's something that I'm super big into. I'm right now on a scholarship, and in the program, it's called the Next Generation Service Corps, but in the program, you pick a focus and you try to help solve that problem. And I picked homelessness, which is a huge problem here in Maricopa County. If you walk downtown, you'll see it is a big, huge problem. So that's something I'm really interested in. And then also definitely LGBTQ plus rights and, keeping equality there, just equity of the sexes, that type of thing, something that I think every person should really be trying to go for. It's not something that everyone agrees with, but it is something that I think is big and that everyone should really just support naturally. And, going into advocacy for that is something huge, because it's not everyone's going to use that voice for good. Someone else has to step up and double their voice, triple their voice in order to do something that's really going to make change and that's really going to, help not just the people now, but generations to come.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to maybe your own identity, how was that process of kind of finding yourself, and then maybe have you had a chance to be through journalism and storytelling, have you had a chance to advocate for yourself and for other people?
I'm honestly not a lot in the journalism school, okay. And not just because that's how it is, but it is something where you do try to take yourself out of it as much as possible. So it is something that's really hard to balance, this whole I want to help advocate, I want to help people, I want to help get the word out that being gay isn't bad, it's okay, it's something that needs to be seen as equal, it's something that's natural, and not having an opinion and a say necessarily, even though it is something that's not political necessarily party-wise. It is something that's still in politics now, and you do have to kind of not say anything about it, which has been really hard for me, because I'm someone who's very vocal, and going into being public policy and lobbying, that's something that you are saying your opinion, and so kind of conflicts with the values of the journalism school and values of my own. It's hard to find that balance in between. It's okay, this is right where I need to be, and it's been a process.
Have you always been comfortable being able to share your opinion, sharing your identity with other people, or is that how's that been throughout your life?
Well, I was raised in Kentucky, so I didn't know that there was something other than heterosexual until really I moved to Indiana, which was when I was 16, and kind of dealing with being I'm not normal, something's wrong with me, and being called names and slurs and just different things, even though you didn't know what they meant and you didn't know what they were really saying, was really difficult. And I kind of realized it when I got to Indiana, even though that is still a very conservative state. It's oh my God, this is a thing, I can do this. I switched to a public school, and I saw girls holding hands and guys kissing each other, and I was what is this whole new world? And it just kind of really opened it up. And then senior year, I was finally able to be okay, this is something that I'm comfortable coming out. And I came to college with the mentality that I'm going to be 100% me, no matter what happens, no matter who says anything. That's exactly what I've done. So it's been.
How was that first experience? Seeing two girls holding hands or a guy's kissing. How was that to you? Because to me, it was you were saying, it's a total 360 of
It was kind of it wasn't even shocking at first. It was just something I needed to see, and it's not I'm sitting here saying it as someone who was raised in a very conservative family, someone who's raised in a Republican Catholic household, where it's anything that's not normal is just wrong. And it's just kind of I saw it and I was oh my gosh, this is what I needed to see. This is something that it almost lifted a weight off of me, and it made me kind of realize okay, well, what else is there other than lesbian and gay, and there's bisexual, pansexual, and I started looking at all these things, and I started meeting people and being friends with people, and I was oh my God, this is something's right. It's like no longer is lesbian like a name I'm being called, but it's something that my friend is, and I like that, and it's normal to me, and it's just kind of like, this is awesome. I loved every moment of it, and like I haven't stopped since, just like putting myself in the community and getting out there and just being vocal about who I was.
I love that. So when you came to ASU, how did you find your community? How have you found your community, and what are you doing to continue that?
So at first it was just kind of like at our first floor meeting, I was like, hi, I'm Kelsey, like I like said I'm bisexual, I let people know, and I thought it was something that like if someone wants to reach out to me, if someone else. I made a few friends that way, but I actually found a really great club on downtown campus called Confetti, and they have been a huge outsource. It's the Downtown LGBTQ club, and some of my best friends are in that club, and just some of the people in there just really open your eyes and give you stories that make you realize things. And I also have a CA, and he's homosexual, so that's been really helpful to have someone to lean on and like reach out to. When I was at my lowest point this year, I was like, hey, can I talk to you? Like, I'm having an identity crisis, I need your help. And he came into the room, and he was like, we sat for an hour and we just talked and he like reaffirmed everything I needed to hear, and it's just such a help. It was amazing, and it's just nice to have like other people that understand you, because while I have friends who are very understanding, it's just nice to have someone who is in your position really understand you and look at you and go, you're okay, like this is okay, you're fine, you're doing well, like just keep going.
Yeah. So like if you're comfortable, what kind of like brought you to that point where you're having like maybe a tear between identities or tear between, you're freshman, right? So I imagine there's a lot going on, like if you're new.
Oh yeah, there is a lot going on.
What kind of brought you to that point if you're comfortable?
Oh yeah, I'm completely comfortable with sharing everything, but being bisexual is really hard to kind of find that balance of like, you're not a lesbian, but you're not straight, and it's hard for people to really see you as like, you are something that's valid and on the spectrum, and it's normal and it's right. And even like some people in the community are like, bisexuals are just people transferring to be lesbians. It's like, no, that's not what it is. And I like had been talking to guys, I'd been talking to some girls, and there was just a point where I was like starting to really think, and I almost got way too into my head, and I was like, I was talking to a guy at the time, and like we weren't clicking, and I was like, maybe it's not like him, like maybe it's just me. And then I was like, maybe I am a lesbian, and like that was a huge ordeal for me, because that was always a word that was said to me in like a negative way. And so I was like, I don't want to be that, like that's not what I want to be. It's almost like I'm letting all the people who beat me down win, and I was like, I don't want to do that, like that's not who I am. And then I like talked to my one friend, and she was like, if you're gay, it's okay, like you're fine, you're doing well. And my CA was like, this is the same thing I went through, like you're doing well. And I had to like sit down and talk, and for a week I was like, I'm a lesbian, like I had to tell myself that, and it just never sounded right. And then I was like, you know what, no, like you're fine, everything's okay, you're bisexual, like it's valid, it's real, it's not wrong, like you're not transitioning from one thing to another, you're not just saying it because you are, like you want to be cool, like it's valid. And I was like, and then I finally got it all figured out, and now I'm good. Continuing on.
Good.
So what does it mean? Because I know everyone has different, I guess, understandings of what their identities mean. So what like you were saying, what is, you kind of alluded to it, but what does bisexual mean to you? And I guess how would you kind of help others to understand that?
I think it's one of the harder spectrum identities to really pin down, because you do have, straight, which is you like the opposite sex, you have lesbian and gay, which is you like the same sex, and then you have these ones that fall in between, and it's just kind of like non-binary is really hard to pin down and for people to understand, and pansexual and bisexual can get easily confused. And for me, it's always just saying like, I like boys and I like girls, and pansexual, it's I like anyone, I'm more attracted to, who you are as a person, it doesn't matter. But for me, it's very like black and white. I like boys, I like girls, never 100% either. I fluctuate, and like you kind of go back and forth. Like some weeks you're like, I really like girls, and some weeks you're like, I really like boys. And then you finally settle down into like a relationship, and you're like, this is what I'm doing for right now. Like right now I'm in like a really strong relationship with a guy, and it's been for 3 months, and like that throws off a lot of people, because they're like, but I thought you were bisexual. It's like, yeah, that doesn't mean I'm gonna go, cheat on my partner. I'm not polyamorous. Like I'm bisexual. I like both, and right now I'm in a happy relationship, and that's all that should matter. And they're like, well, I don't get it. Like you like girls too, and it's like, do you want me to be like in 2 relationships? Like I don't know what you want. And that's where it gets hard, that people are like, well, this isn't right, so you're straight. And you're like, no, still like girls. I'm with a guy. It's the same thing as like, if you're straight, you like people of the opposite sex, but you're with someone, so you're not going to go around with other people even though you like them. Like,
so how is it? So you're in a relationship now.
Yeah.
So how is that with your current partner? And maybe was there a time when you told your current partner about this, and how have they handled it?
I'm pretty upfront, and I used to not be, but ever since like really realizing that it's something that I have to like accept for myself. It's unfair to someone to look at him 6 months, a year into the relationship and be like, hey, I also like girls, because if that conflicts with what they believe, it's almost like you've been lying and cheating on them. Like, it's unfair. And I found that out one way in like a really difficult time. Like, I told a guy and I was like, I thought I had told him before and he didn't like hear it or something, and he was just like, what? And it kind of like ended our relationship. So I told this guy right up front, I was like, hey, I'm bisexual. Like, it's pretty obvious that I'm not straight. Like, I have an undercut. It's something a little like out of the ordinary and usually like seen as gay. So he was like, okay, and he get it and he's fine with it and he doesn't really question it. And he knows I'm super involved with the LGBTQ plus community, and he's completely okay with it, and he likes to get involved too. And you know, it's just really nice to have someone who is straight look at you and be like, you know what, I'm fine with being in a relationship with you even though you're not the same necessarily. Like, he doesn't really care at all. He's like, as long as you're not cheating on me, like, with anyone, I don't care. Just, and he's also been super open to like listening to what I have to say about it and like talking about kind of more deeper discussions. And he's in the military actually, so it's nice to be able to be like, hey, like, the whole trans ban went on, like, can we talk about that? Can we talk about what that means? Like, don't ask, don't tell was a while ago. Like, do you really understand what that means? And I've been able to kind of help him realize things aren't, you know, black and white. Like, there are a lot of problems that people, even though you look normal, like, you still face things, and you can be a white male and still have that identity of gay and have a lot of discrimination going towards you, because the LGBTQ community doesn't really get looked at as equals. So it's like, even though they might look normal, they're probably dealing with something that's, you know, not the best. And like, you gotta understand and be open to it. And he's been super understanding and super like willing to learn and educate himself and just be involved and just be 100% supportive. I'd like to see myself graduating first of all. Like, that's always the goal. Like, I'd like to be able to get to that point. But I'd also like to see myself just really kind of embodying what I'm saying. Like, now I want to do, like, I want to go into lobbying. I want to make a difference. Like, I really want to commit to that. And that's something that if I don't see myself doing that in 4 years, I'm going to have a problem with myself, because that's what I've been pushing for. And that's the only way I know I'll be happy in a job is if I'm making change. And then I'd also like to see myself, like, actually fully accepting who I am. I know I'm like super out with my friends and it's really hard with my family. I've only told one person, and I'm from very conservative Midwest, like Catholic. We go to church every Saturday. We only think this, like, we voted for Trump type of situation. And I've only been able to tell my brother, and that's kind of hard, just to be like, I was going to tell my parents when they came for fall break and I couldn't do it. I was like, this is not the time, this is not right, I can't do it. And I know telling them, it's like the first step, but then telling the rest of the family is another one, and it's just like, oh, I'm not ready for that. So I'd like to be able to do that eventually. Yeah. That's something that would be nice, because I feel like it's always a good moment, but we're working on it. I went home for Christmas break.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that experience? Like, was there like I don't know, what did you feel during that experience?
Definitely didn't really want to be around my family. That was the whole, I got this taste of, not just like, I mean, it's college freedom, of course, and being out in Arizona State, it's like, this is amazing, oh my God, like, there's a freedom that you get, and there's sunshine, and there's this and that, and I went home, and it was immediately like, I was depressed. I went back into like this state of like reclusiveness. It was dark always because it was snowy, and it was just not happy. Like, I didn't want to see my family, I didn't want to be around them. And this year was the first year that I actually looked at my mom and was like, I'm not going to Christmas church, I'm sorry, I can't do it, it's not going to happen. She was like, okay, you know what, you've been pushing for this for years, we're going to accept it, you do what you want. And she was pretty upset about it, but at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. Still came home, we still had Christmas dinner, like, it wasn't a big deal. It was just a small detail that she was like, well, that's weird, why don't you want to do that with us, like, why don't you want to be with me? And it wasn't that, it was just like, I don't feel comfortable going, I don't want to be in that situation, like, I told you before, I don't believe in God, like, it's a whole thing. And she just never understands it. That's what I'm always worried about, is like, are you not going to understand this? And like, coming out as a lesbian, I know they'd be like, we understand that, like, you like girls, whatever, but coming out as bisexual is a whole nother explanation. And they're like, you're just doing this for attention, you're just trying to be cool, college did this to you. And I don't want to like freak him out. So Christmas break was a lot of me being like, biting my tongue, holding back, not saying much, and kind of just sitting in the background for the first time in a while, because I'm a very vocal and like out there person as a journalism student. Like, we're all obnoxious, like, we're the worst. But that was the first year that I was like quiet, and everyone was like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm fine, just tired. Like, the time zone change 3 weeks into this is still a lot. The whole 2 hours is throwing me off, Grandma, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So when you think about maybe people that are like homophobic, not necessarily your family, but like people that are, like, they're not make they're not knowledgeable of the community? Like, what is something that you would say to them that maybe it would help them better understand just the community in general?
I think it's just, first of all, you have to be open to the conversation, and that's something that I'm really big on, is I will be open to your conversations. I will listen to you. I will see what you say. I will even research if you have anything you want me to look up. Like, I will be 100% open. Just be 100% open with us and really understand that it's not a choice. It's just what happens. And, like, I'm the best example of that. I fought it for 6-7 years. I was like, I don't like girls. I don't like girls. I don't like girls. Like, every other day it'd just be something that would come up, and I'd be like, that's not me, that's not me. And I fought it for as long as I could, and finally I had to look at myself and be like, it's not a bad thing. Like, you're fine, you're okay, you're normal, it's healthy, it's natural. Like, anyone you talk to in the community will tell you it just wasn't a choice, it just happened. And you didn't wake up one day and you're like, it was a struggle to get through. And most of the people I've talked to have said that, and there's very few who have had a very easy transition from, you know, being assumed to be straight to whatever their identity is. And those were the kids who had the most supportive parents and communities and a lot of education at a young age and a lot of exposure. And that's one thing, it's like, just be open to listening, be willing to understand even if you don't at first, and be willing to really think about it, and like, talk to more than just one person, and don't talk to someone who's straight. Like, that's unfair. You can't do that. Like, you got to talk to everyone in the community and really understand it and take it one step at a time. You know, if it's overwhelming to take every single, you know, part of the spectrum in at once, start with the easy ones. Gay, lesbian, go a little harder and get further and further in until you really are starting to understand that, you know, it changes and it's not really what the media says. Like, look up on your own, think on your own, and just be willing to form your own opinion. And at the end of the day, if you still can't really understand it or you don't want to, that's on you. And everyone else eventually will come around. And if you're still the only one and you still don't believe it, like, there's nothing you can really do.
What would you, what advice would you give to someone, say, that's potentially, you know, still exploring their identities, they're questioning, they're not quite sure? Is there anything that you would say, you know, based on your experiences or anything that you've heard that would help that individual?
I think the best thing is to research everything and, like, know what you're getting into and know what you're understanding, because that was the one thing I never understood was, you know, I knew there was like there was a thing called being a lesbian, but I never knew there was something called bisexuality, and that's what really clicked with me. And, like, really look into all of them, really think about it, really think about what you want, and don't just jump into it right away. Don't, like, day one of you being like, oh, I found out what pansexuality is, I'm pansexual. Like, don't do that. Like, try it on for size. And I mean, honestly, like, what I did was, like, I would stand in front of the mirror and be like, you're bisexual. Like, if it sounds weird still, like, keep going, like, work through it. And if you know it's not you, you know it's not you, and you're gonna have, you know, a journey in front of you that's a lot of, like, I'm doing well, something knocks you down. But you gotta keep up and keep going, and you gotta surround yourself with people, even if they're straight or, you know, they're allies or they are someone in the community. Like, you gotta surround yourself, you gotta expose yourself, you gotta really just take time with it. And don't rush into it, don't push it. You gotta just kind of keep going, and if something knocks you down, don't give up. Like, that's the biggest thing, is just get up and keep going, because there are people who are dealing with the same exact thing as you. And, you know, it might be the kid sitting next to you in class or, like, the kid who passed you in the hallway, but, like, be willing to reach out and be willing to be open with it and start small. Like, if you're close with your parents, tell your parents, but if you're not, maybe wait a little while. I told my best friend first, and his reaction was literally like, okay, like, what do you want to do later today? And that was the best reaction ever. And I mean, that's also something that if you have a friend who is exploring, just be supportive. Don't be like, well, do you think like this maybe? Or, like, are you sure you're not just, like, just be like, okay, that's what you're feeling, that's what you're feeling. And if the next day they look at you and you're like, I think I was just going crazy, just, okay, let them have their time. You just gotta be patient.